Hey guys, and welcome to another outstanding episode of the Hemmings Hot Barbecue. I am Mike Musto with
Dan Stoner. Oh yeah, Mike Musto with Dan Stoner. You're Mike Musto. All right.
Well, I have been for quite a number of years.
It's been a long week, man.
Yes.
It's been a long year.
I know.
Year of the Rona.
Dan's got a lot going on. I know he's switching homes. He's got hot rods moving all over the place in a garage full of stuff.
Always, dude. Always. Here's something that happened to me last week, Mike, because I knew you were going to ask, and I figured I'd tell you. So, I had this great old vintage refrigerator. You've seen the thing, right?
Oh, great! It's awesome.
And it's called the Coolerator. And you saw it actually on the day that I figured out I broke something in it. Now this is a mid 50s, refrigerator. It's the perfect man cave refrigerator.
Yep.
Right.
Totally.
And I bought it simply because it said Coolerator, ironically, on the front of the damn thing. Right. Like Coolerator. What could go wrong? How could that not be cool? So, of course, when I moved it 17 times, I had to move the shop a few times. God bless the weed industry in California. They keep moving us car guys out of our warehouses. And when I moved it for the 17th time, I finally broke some sort of wiring deep within the bowels of this thing, to the point where I realized the back end of the refrigerator was riveted on very nicely, and there was no way I was going to dig into it. Right. So I found an old refrigerator repair guy. The guy's old too, but I mean, he fixes old refrigerators.
Right.
And I called up and he said, sure, bring it out. And I went over to Richmond, California, which is about 30 miles from my shop.
Yep.
And I think he's probably like the only guy. He works on refrigerators, old gas stoves, and jukeboxes. So, that's a cottage.
Oh, shit.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I get the thing over to him. I load this sucker in the back of the truck. I get it up into the thing. By the way, for those of you who have not seen it on Hemmings.com, it's a 74 Ford F-350. Apparently, awesome. With its original tailgate hardware, because as I got the fridge into the truck, closed the tailgate, I heard a little ding. Ooh. And broke all of the actual latches and the mechanisms inside the tailgate. So now,
you got to be kidding. Tailgate itself.
The tailgate itself as I closed it. So now I've got a 5,000-pound 1958 refrigerator in the bed of this truck that I can't get back out again. But, well, you know what? At this point, screw it. I'm going to drive out to Richmond, and I'll just figure this out when I get there, right? Because we'll see what happens. What the hell? Might as well. So I get all the way out to the guy, and he goes, what happened? I said, well, I can't get – I think I broke the tailgate. He goes, with the fridge in it? I go, well, yeah, I guess. So it took the two of us a very long, big, flat screwdriver and about 30 minutes to actually get the tailgate open. But we finally did it. And to make a long story just a little bit longer, called me a week later and said, yeah, this thing's not worth fixing. I'm like, that's what I figured. He was, but I do have another fridge here that you might be interested in. Is the one I personally use. I keep it in my little office here, and it's beautiful, turquoise blue, smaller, like General Electric, of the same vintage. You open the thing up, and it's got turquoise blue lights inside it. It looks like Vegas 1960.
Really?
In there. And I got that one instead. So it was actually a decent end of last week, because now I've got a much cooler refrigerator, because the Coolerator that I did have wasn't as cool as the cool GE turquoise, aluminum fantastic model that I got. So all in all, for a car guy, not a bad week.
Oh, that's okay, actually.
Not bad.
That's okay. And this is
not bad.
So everybody knows, when you walk in a damn shop, it is a treasure trove of stuff that your eyeballs can't stop moving around. Because you're like, that's cool. Ooh, look at that. Oh, I want this. Oh, what's your and it's like it's like walking into the coolest episode of American Pickers you've ever seen. It's really cool.
At some point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to live in that thing, because if I keep collecting stuff, that's been the threat. So you'll know where to find me.
I'm right there.
Yeah.
So on this episode of the barbecue, my week was good, dude. I took the Charger out of hibernation. I haven't driven it in a while.
Nice.
Battery obviously completely dead. Put put it on the trickle charger, got it rolling again. First turn key, look underneath, and of course, it's like all the bowls in the carburetor are leaking because it hasn't been started forever.
Of course.
But tightened everything up, got it out on the road, did a 250-mile day, just beating the hell out of it.
Nice.
And God bless it. The thing's 15 moving parts. It always starts. It always runs. So, yeah, just a little hot rod weekend, which was good.
That's great. That every once in a while, man. It kind of like cleanses the soul a little bit, doesn't it? Just to get out there and drive around a little.
Yeah, and you know what? I had been driving the Trans Am around so much, and every time I get in that Charger, man, I'm just like, this is the one. This is the one that I will have for the day I die.
I was going to say, you still got the Trans Am. It's been a month. You still have that thing?
I know.
What happened? Like,
I know. We might be letting the Trans Am go soon. We'll see.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the clock, man. I mean, the clock's ticking on that thing.
I know. But the fact of the matter is, it's a good week. We're back with a brand new episode of Barbecue. We've got, so just to let everybody know, we've got Kevin Wesley from Wesley Motorsports coming on. And for those that don't know, Kevin is one of the coolest guys in the industry as a racer, as a builder, basically he is the barometer by which will bring you down to earth. You will say, I need to put all this crap on my car, and Kevin will look at you and be like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. You don't need to do any of that. Yeah.
You don't need this. Like, let me tell you what the right thing to do. And the problem when Kevin says, let me tell you what the right thing to do is, he's generally always right.
Yeah. Well, you know what he is? He's like the Dodge and Mopar muscle car version of Luigi from the movie Cars, where he's like, you don't know what you want. Luigi know what you want. You know, then
it's exactly right.
And you get what he gives you, and you appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, see, I like that. So this is a good segue, because here's the thing. So every week, as everybody knows, we pull a car from our Hemmings classified, which we have 25,000 cars that are listed, and you can search the classifieds for your favorite car, and also obviously go to the auction and bid or sell on your favorite car. So going back to the whole Luigi, Dan has chosen a car from the classifieds, and I think it's the first car that we have that isn't a fully restored or driving anything, but my God, cool as hell. So Dan, what did you find for us today?
You're absolutely right, Mike. What I love more than anything about the Hemmings marketplace isn't so much the done cars, because a done car is already done, painted, perfect. It's got the right wheel and tire combination. In my heart and soul, there's not much left to talk about with a car like that. As great as they are, they're done. The conversation has its story arc of a beginning, middle, and end. It's already complete, right? I love about what I find on Hemmings sometimes are the not even diamonds in the rough, just full project cars, things that you can look at, and for not a lot of money, ostensibly, you can get into, and then you make it your own, or you die trying, right? And in this case, which is I've come close to, I think we all have every once in a while. In this case, it's a 1972 Jensen Interceptor 3. Now, I have never been a huge fan, or I should just say not a huge fan. I have never been a real connoisseur of British power. You know, I know that the Dark Lord had something to do with electrical systems in British cars, but I don't really know much about them. I've never really owned one. The Jensen Interceptor has always been a little bit of an intrigue. I mean, you know, we've all seen, a few movies with certain elements of these cars in them. But I think in this case, this one, it is such a pile that it just intrigues me, right? And I'm pretty sure I couldn't get into a Jensen Interceptor on my budget until I saw this thing. Any Jensen Interceptor that's got duct tape holding the rear glass in, my kind of Interceptor, you know? And these things designed by body by Italians, underpinnings by Chrysler, and a nameplate by the British Isles. What could possibly go wrong?
That's going to work beautifully. You're never going to have any problems with that.
No, it's the UN of weird weird muscle, and I think in this case it's the kind of car that all of a sudden I'm totally all about a Jensen Interceptor. Like, I got to have this thing, like I need this thing, another hole in the head, and it's here in Southern California. I saw too.
Yeah.
And I'm always a huge fan of our private sellers on Hemmings. And this thing, there's got to be a story. You know, we don't know what that is yet. If you look at the rear end of the thing, it has been carved with a cheese knife. Look at that. The body work of this thing is hammered.
Very, very dull. I think my favorite part so far are the Trans Am dual exhaust tips.
You like that? I thought you were like sticking way out.
Just sticking 2 feet out. I mean, it's
insane.
Listen, the bones are here to make something wonderful.
Right? That's what now, you mentioned this, Mike, and it was the first thing you mentioned when you saw the pictures of this thing, and it took me a second to get my eyes to focus on it. But that upside down 45-degree oil filter sticking up over the driver's front wheel well under the hood. I don't understand. Is that stock? I have no idea. You know, I mean, I know what a 440 looks like, and that's not where the oil filter.
No, I mean, I've got a 440 on in my Charger, and that's not where the filter goes.
No.
So for anybody that's listening, do us a favor. If you're into Jensen, or if you could shed some light on it, do us a favor and just leave it in the comments. And and we'll totally respond, because Dan and I looked at that and we're like, well, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, we don't know anything about this, but we know it. So, tell us, talk us out of this,
Yeah. So, all right. So with that said, we're going to take a 2-second break. We'll be right back with Kevin Wesley from Wesley Motorsports. And hang on, because we'll go get a soda. I'll be right back.
Yeah, me too.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Hot Rod Barbecue. Today we have very special guest appearance by Mr. Kevin Wesley. Now, for those who don't know Kevin has been around the racing scene for quite some time. He does Pikes Peak, he does autocross, he does road racing, and he does it all in a vehicle that many people would not choose to do Pikes Peak road racing and everything else in, which is a full-size Dodge Challenger. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Nice. Nice.
So before we get into all the racing and everything you do, give people some background into how you got into racing. Where did your career start? You know what I mean? Because I know you have a very long history in this hobby.
Yeah, well, I've had a long history in this hobby, and my racing career is very, very much like my car collecting, I guess. It's very ADHD. I'm here, there, everywhere. So, I run a different stuff just because I can focus on one thing long enough to do anything really to say that's what I do. So I actually got started back in, it was 1993. I happened to be in the right place at the right time and won one lap of America with Richard Sternberg and his 69 Plymouth Valiant.
That green brick, right?
Actually started it all off. I mean, that was the green brick. And I showed up at the start at Race Rock, and Dave Zelkowski, who was an wasn't SRT back in those days, but he was a FCA engineer, a Dodge engineer. And they were releasing the new minivan, and he was a calibration guy, and he got stuck at work and he couldn't go. And of course, at that time I was 20 years old. It's not like I really had a job that I had to be there every day for. I was kind of in school, not in school. So he asked me if I want to go, and I said, yeah. And my dad brought some money down to me, and I hopped in the back of the brick and hit the road. So that was the start of my career. And
wow,
it's kind of weird because I had literally run, I think, one autocross in my Dodge Omni 2.2 carbed 5-speed that I had put GLA struts on. And he threw me the keys at New Hampshire National Speedway and said, hey, take it out. Because, I mean, at that time, nobody had been to school. Nobody was really a racer. Right. He was just doing it for fun. Everybody there that was doing it was for fun. So it didn't really matter. I mean, we were just there to have a good time. And I actually finished, I think I finished 6th overall at New Hampshire. And I had never been there, never driven the car on track, nothing, right? So after that, we finished that year, and I took the car down to Atlanta Motor Speedway and did a driving school with car guys, got a sponsorship because they deemed me to be a natural. And that's pretty much how it started. I ran one lap for 8 times. So I ran it up until about 2002 was the last time we ran. I got a ride in 1999 with Warren Mosler in the Mosler Raptor.
Yeah.
Because that car was supposed to be banned. It was banned, and then it was brought back, and then they said you can't run it if you don't have you run it if you don't have a pro driver. So they dug me up. I finished 4th overall on the brick in '97,
Okay.
and I didn't run in '98. I had my first child. My son was born in '98, so we skipped. In '99, they asked me to run the Raptor, and I won overall in the Raptor in '99. So
for those that don't know, One Lap of America is, what is it, 8 or 9 racetracks in 7 days or 8 days. It's start off at a racetrack, race 2 sessions, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then drive
hold on. That's the new version of one.
No. Well, this is the new. It stems from
when men ran one lap back in the
Here we go.
we would run a track in the morning and then transit to another track to run in the afternoon, and then pretty much had to flog all night and typically sleep in the car overnight, no hotels, and run the next track the next day. I mean, in '97 we started out at Watkins Glen, went all the way up to Vegas, and came back to the Glen.
Jesus. Wow. So what were the transit like? Because I started doing one lap in 2010, 2009, 2010. And the transit legs were
Kevin just
like,
I
know, rookie. And I've done it 5 times.
2009
transit leg. Well, I think our biggest transit was 700 miles in a day. And I've heard stories of like 900, 1100 miles in a day transit legs.
We've had transits where they went from, I think when we did Vegas, we came back to like Halle or something, and we actually didn't have any races the day for transiting. So you finished in Vegas in the evening, transited the entire next day, and then showed up in Oklahoma in the morning or something like that. Wow. In 2002, the last year we ran the brick, we were in Albuquerque at this really sketchy local road course in Albuquerque. And when I say sketchy, it's like, the track, there's the edge of the track, and then it drops off.
Kind of paved?
Well, it's not even about paved. It was like this ditch that went down 4 feet and into a concrete wall. That was the edge of the track. It wasn't even SCCA sanctioned. And I actually stuffed the brick in a concrete barrier because A-body Mopars notoriously have no front suspension travel once you lower them. So we had always been fighting this problem of basically loading the front suspension and going infinite understeer, because you basically bottom it out and compress it, and then there's nothing. So it was the best circumstances, crest a hill, brake on the lower side, completely compressed straight into the wall. So we patched it back up, put some different fenders on it. Then we went, what was it? It's 900 miles to College Station, Texas, and I think we made it in just over 9 hours. We averaged over 100 miles an hour.
Wow. And this was what was the brick powered by back then?
Same thing. I mean, that was its last powertrain, so it would have been a 390 whatever iron W2 headed small block. So iron heads, iron block with a Tremec 5-speed. Yeah, carbureted. And well, no, actually it was injected at that time. So it had Rance fuel injection at that point. So it was EFI. You'd still only be able to go like 150 miles. I mean, at 100, you're going like 110 or 120 miles on a tank if you're lucky. So, but yeah, by that time, I had 2 kids, and I mean, I enjoyed that a lot in the 90s. In the 2000s, it kind of got old. And at that point, I had 1 overall, so I used my overall winter privileges, and I would just camp out in the backseat and like pick me up when I get there. Right. I'm not doing but yeah, I mean, but it was fun. I really regret not having the technology kind of back then that we do now, because of all the things we used to do during that race. I remember, plenty of time going across Nebraska, waking up, and there's 4 or 5 cars just doing a $160 across Nebraska.
Yep.
And okay, it's long enough now. I don't care. I can tell that story, but sure. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And and it helps me now. I mean, when I travel now, all these things you look in life and you say, how do you end up in this point? And one of the things, I'm typically very good at tracks, at having never been there, because that's how I cut my racing. And I'm very good at sleeping in the car, because I used to,
yeah,
I used to just, you get in the back seat of that car, no air conditioning, roll down the windows, and you're doing 100 miles an hour most of the time. So what do? You learn how to sleep. So
right. So how did you progress from driving? So you went from an Omni, you went to the Brick for something like one lap, right? And then has it always been Chrysler products, or have you dabbled in like the black parts and gone to Chevy and Ford or Porsche or other stuff?
No, I mean, really, I owned a 2007 7th gen Civic for a
maniac.
couple years. Yeah, right. So
everybody hold on.
Because I needed, and it's one of those cars I regret not buying a Mopar, right? It's like, I should get an SRT4. No, I don't really want, 2008, 2007, gas is going to be $4 a gallon. I should save money. Yeah, I regret that. But, I enjoyed it. It's a great car. But, I mean, no, I've pretty much always driven Mopar. I mean, even in the 90s, I mean, you got to remember, in 93, I was 20, 94, 95, 96, all that stuff. I mean, I'm broke. I'm a broke kid. I don't have any money.
Right.
I don't have a car. I would go to the driving schools. I would instruct, and I would borrow Ehrenberg's car, some of these other guys. They would just like, here, Kevin, take my car. Here, Kevin, take my car out. Or I would show up in my dad's car. So I always share the story. The people that were there know it. They believe it. They've seen it, And it was probably 95. It was probably 95. I went to Summit Point, and I would always go to Summit Point because that's where car guys back in the day, you got to remember, I mean, driving schools back in the 90s were not like, everyone under the sun. It was very selective. So I would go to Summit Point, and I would take my dad's Chrysler LHS. And that was my
like the big sedan, the big front wheel drive sedan,
the big front wheel drive sedan. And I remember it rained at Summit Point, and I was out in the instructors group, and I lapped the instructors group in my father's LHS. And then when I came in, I got yelled at by somebody that was working the lane saying, you shouldn't be driving that car that fast. I mean, there's the best stories like that.
So Kevin, really what you're saying is you were like basically Maverick in Top Gun, except instead of buzzing the tower, you're in your dad's sedan.
Yes.
Yeah. Damn, I told you not to buzz the tower,
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have been to Summit Point. They have a really long front straight.
Yep.
And you talk about buzzing the tower. I was there for a 12-hour race in probably 2003, and I rented a seat in a Neon. And I decided I was rallying that year, so I bought a rally Neon and was running Group 2 introduction. So I had rallied the whole year, and in the fall, I think it was a 12, something like that. And I started 12-hour turn, I think it's 10 at Summit Point, out onto the front straight, and someone pushed me off to the grass, and I drove the whole front straight in the grass and went by the start finish line, merged my way back in before turn 1 and everything. And I remember it was Brian Yates Jr. came down to see me. He was like, my wife was flagging that. She's like, who's that idiot out in the grass on the start of a 12-hour race? And it's like, yeah, that was me.
Nice. In a rally Neon. That's what dreams are made of.
That was a showroom stock car. I didn't bring my rally car. So
and I love.
I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes you do stupid things.
Well, I like the fact that because I know Brock pretty well. I've done one lap, I think 5 times now, and I could totally just see Brock just shaking his head, walking away, being like, "Fucking Kevin, man." You know what I mean? Like, just it is his own like way that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Just be like, "Fucking Kevin." I knew he was going to do something like
this.
We
used to. I mean, Ehrenberg and Yates Senior were like oil and water. I mean, they just butted heads for years before I was there. So I kind of swept up into that whole dynamic, right? And I would push the envelope too. I mean, I remember we were at Second Creek Raceway in Denver, and they literally had just paved the runoff at Second Creek. Like literally, the paving machine is sitting They move it out of the way. Okay, we're going to one lap and make some laps. And the brake would never, I mean, it's iron brakes with metallic pads from literally dealership counter. So what we would end up doing is playing braking zones depending on where they would put the start finish line. Well, start finish line at Second Creek, the lights were beyond where I would start braking. So you basically use the runoff. So you blow the lights and you blow the first corner. That's going to be the cool down lap, and you just run off. Well, they had just paved it, and I did it anyway. And Senior just came over, just screaming at me. It's like, couldn't stop. What do you want me to do? I just can't stop. So there are definitely a few rules in one lap that were the result of us. It's just, that was the way it was. I mean, you just did what you did.
So as time progressed, all right, you've obviously established yourself as a racer, and a builder and stuff. And then how did Wesley Motorsports come about? Did you work for race shops in the past before you started your own shop, or how did that work?
So the Wesley Motorsports is essentially, back then it was, you had to make a decision on whether you were going to go race or you were going to go feed your family, right? So I made the decision to go feed my family, and I basically checked out racing from about 2004 until about 2010, 2011. I mean, there was probably 4 or 5 years where I literally I never went to the track. I didn't do anything with a car. I didn't go to the track. I mean, I still had cars, but I mean, I didn't go to the track. So, and I built my business, and my business became established enough to afford me the luxury of starting Wesley Motorsports. I mean, Wesley Motorsports is Kevin's hobby garage, is really what I got started out as.
Interesting.
Right.
And that's basically, how it's evolved. I mean, it's you can either go find the money to pay to go racing, spend your own money, or make enough money, right? So you make those choices, and I just made the choice to go try to make enough money to pay for it. So that's how I started it.
Okay, can we get like, I'm putting the request in now for some special edition Wesley Motorsports bumper stickers, just say driver carries no cash, right? Can we just get that made up? I would buy those. I think anyone would buy those,
Yeah.
So, okay, now you are Wesley Motorsports, and in 2008, the big challenges come out, the Chargers come out, right? In 2005, really, the LX platform comes out. Right. So were you excited when those came out? Because obviously when the Charger came out, it was like, it's got 4 doors, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, what was your impression of Dodge and FCA back then with the new platforms? Were you like, okay, I could do something with this? Or were you like, it's too big, heavy, whatever?
No, I mean, whenever I go to the track, I've never taken a Porsche to the track, right? I've never taken a Ferrari to the track. And I don't know if that's by choice or just by the fact that I like to show up. I was always show up at the gunfight with the knife and be the underdog and not show up with the expectation to win. I mean, in 99 when I drove that Raptor, it was a learning experience because, I showed up and I had never driven the car. I'm going to tracks that I'd never been to before, and I'm expected to win because I'm driving a car that's undefeated. That's a lot of pressure. So, I mean, I like to show up and win when I can, but I like to show up and shame 95% of everybody else in something crappy. To me, that's just more enjoyable. I
love the fact there's like no chip. It's just like, I'm going to show up in the crappiest car. And kill everyone.
Yeah. And a lot of that stemmed from, for a long time, if I was going to a local autocross, I'd show up at the local autocross and I'd win. And I'd show up and I'd win. I'd show up and I'd win. Show up and I'd win. And it's just like, this isn't fun anymore. So how can I make it entertaining? And again, it's my ADD when it comes to stuff like that, where I just didn't care if I won anymore. I just wanted to have fun, and I wanted to do well. Right? I wanted to do well enough to be noticed, but I didn't win every time. So what? I could say, oh yeah, you beat me by 0.2 a second, but my car cost $2,500 and you got $25,000 here. So who cares? I didn't care.
Right.
So I mean, so when those cars came out, you know, it didn't really matter. It's okay, that's a cool car and stuff like that. But you know, and I think 2010 was when I kind of started getting back into it, and was if I'm going to get back into it, I'm going to do a vintage muscle car, and that's when I actually acquired what to become known as the Hotchkiss Autocross Taxi, and started running that.
So it's because the first time that I saw that, I was like, because I remember I saw it in person, and so Kevin pulls up this 4-door. It's a Satellite, right? 68 Satellite.
Yeah, it's a 70 Satellite 4-door. I bought it at Mopar Nationals. It was a 318 automatic, and drove it back. I paid $500 for it.
Yeah, it looks like a taxi cab, right? It looks like what you would see on like an episode of The Odd Couple if they got into a taxi cab in New York City, right? That's basically what it was.
Yes.
And then Kevin shows up, and the thing has 4 racing seats in this, and 4 doors, and proceeds to go out, and everybody goes, what the heck is this? And then just mops the floor with everything on track, and everybody was like, what? I don't understand what just happened. Like, it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So why that? Was it just because, screw it, I'm just gonna make this work?
Well, I went to Vegas. Remember Mopar's at the Strip, which I don't know what it is this week. And I fly in, and Hotchkiss have their autocross, and so I rented a Crown Vic at the airport when I showed up, and I took it to the autocross out at Mopar's at the Strip, and and I remember we wedged e-brake pedal with a pop bottle cap or something, and we just loaded everybody up, and I would drift the autocross course in the rental car, and everybody just had so much fun, and I was having a good time because I didn't care what we ran. I just wanted to have fun. And I was there, and I told John, I said, John, we got to build a 4-door. And he's like, all right. I said, I got a Satellite. Let's get a plan together. And that's where it went from. And yeah, I mean, it got a 451, it got a low deck stroker, it got a 5-speed from Kiesler, but it was all Hotchkiss suspension. I mean, it's torsion bars, leaf springs.
Yeah.
Yeah. 4 racing buckets that I bought off Summit. I mean, it was nothing special. I mean, I literally built that car in 6 weeks, and we debuted it at Chrysler's at Carlisle, I think in 2012. So, I mean, again, it was a very simple package: torsion bars, leaf springs, 100% bolt on. I personally am not a fabricator. I don't like welders. I don't know what I'm doing. I stay away from them. And it had to be something we could just slam together. So I'm an accountant is my background, right? What did I go off and start making a couple bucks? So I do ERP software consulting. So I'm an accounting background. So I literally did a bill of material for that entire car and made sure I'd had every part in the shop before we started to touch it. Because I said, I'm not going to start working on this car and have to wait for parts. I didn't like to do that. I didn't want to do that. And that's kind of the model we've carried all the way through. I mean, it's just
Dan and I know nothing about doing.
I was just going to say that, Mike. We don't know nothing about.
And I think really that's a function of time management more for me than anything else, where, you know, my time becomes valuable for a lot of different reasons. And if I'm going to have 8 hours on a Saturday to sit at the shop and do something, better be productive. And I can't just stop after an hour and wait. So, but yeah, that car was a lot of fun. We ran that car a couple of years. We ran it at Popular Hot Rodding Car of the Year, I think, in 2013. And we finished second in the autocross, and I think we finished 4th overall. And that, again, was one of those things where, you know, you'd go there and I'd look at the wheels and tires and brakes, and it's like, you guys have more in the tires, wheels, brakes on your car than I have in my whole car. And then we go and do this, you know, the speed stop challenge, and I'd lose by 10th. And it's just like, it's not the brake. It's not the brake. It's, you know, because I couldn't get any traction out of the hole. So, yeah, I mean, it was fun. And that's what I like to do. I mean, that, again, that's that whole, you know, shame 95%. But I mean, that's what we did in 2011, you know, talk about late model Chargers. I got a press fleet Charger Challenger first year for the 392 and ran the 341 challenge, the Spectre 341 highway out in Nevada. And, you know, everybody said, you can't run. Oh, happy if you just run 4 minutes with that car, you know, you'll be great. 341 is always the bogey. And, you know, we ran 339 and I had to drive back to LA. So, you know, and that was a 6.4 nag 5-speed. I mean, not the best car to be running on an open road race, right? With 245, 45, 20s that have been flogged.
That you had the stock size tires on that thing? You had 245 on that car when you ran that.
So literally,
wow. I was going to say that number sounds familiar.
Yeah, I picked that car up at LAX from the press pool. I had brought both my boys, were pretty young then. My oldest was at that point, I guess, 14. And we made it a family road trip. We were going to go up to the race and toured the coast of California. And Dad showed up and crushed a bunch of people at the 341 challenge and packed it up and went back to LAX and dropped the car off.
So this car couldn't have been, this was 100% down to the brake fluid.
Yes, 100. I mean, it was a press fleet car. It had to be, absolutely. 100% stock.
Jesus.
That's great. That's
so
great.
I mean, I've gotten press cars for years, but to take a press car and go run an event like that, like I ran one lap a couple of years ago, with Red Eye Challenger, right? And I was like, the only thing, like, keep it stock, but the only thing I need you to do is put some kind of half cage, just because we were going to like Brainerd stuff and running like almost 170 down the back strip, and I was just, I kind of want some safety equipment in this thing. But the fact that you did events in a bone stock car, dude, that's insanity.
I mean, so in 1997, when we ran the brick at Watkins Glen at the last event, the year we ran 4th overall, we actually finished 2nd overall at the Glen. And that year we would run 15 pounds of nitrous through that car in 2 laps. So I would literally go into turn 1 at the Glen, shift to 3rd, exit at the apex, hit the nitrous, lift nitrous, pull 4th, and nitrous all the way up through the S's at the Glen, all the way to the bus stop. So that car did 100, and I mean, at that time, somebody had a radar gun. It's like 163 or 167 miles an hour. There was no Valiant in that car. Yeah, in a Valiant. I mean, yeah, 225, 50, 15 with torsion bars and leaf springs, and I mean, but we finished 2nd overall. I mean, it's the car that beat me. It was the Moser Raptor that beat me. I mean, we beat every other factory car that was at the event in a car that was designed completely with 1960s technology, run 1960s technology other than fuel injection, and literally semi-metallic pads from the parts counter and a brake fluid. That's what I learned to drive in.
That's insane. So I never heard the story of, I've never heard of anybody running nitrous road course before.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know, that's kind of spectacular.
Yeah. So I had the button on the right-hand side of the wheel. So I would have to lift off the button to shift to make sure I'm not nitrous through the shift and forgetting. And that actually worked really well. And I mean, how else are you going to make power? I mean, we were limited on what power we would make because that's just the way we were. We were cheap. We didn't have a budget for big motors and all that stuff. So that's what we did. Did
people know? Did people know that you were running
I mean, it was absolutely everybody knew. I even nitroused it at the what was it, like a 3/8 mile dirt oval, just to have fun, come out of the corner and pitch the car side with the nitrous button. It was like a video game.
Best video game ever.
I was going to say, Jesus. All right, so now the hobby of Wesley Motorsports, your hobby garage, is that a full-time business for you, doing race cars?
Yeah, it basically is. We've had some, we were supposed to launch it at the first of the year to be more serious. Obviously, COVID has torpedoed like every plan I've had this year, but no, we're starting to get customer cars in, and we're actually starting to clean up some of my crap that's kind of got pushed off to the side. And my brother works there. He runs the shop, and he's not there full time yet, but by the first of the year this year, when we can get our non-COVID plan going, he'll be in the shop working full time, and we'll start to grow it from there. One of the things with sponsorships and things like that, we love our sponsors, but we always do distribution agreements with all of our sponsors so that we can sell the product that we represent. So that took a while, and we had some stuff coming out with Holstein that's private labeled and things like that. So we're just, it takes time, and again, takes time because I have a company to run, and I can't devote my full time to it. So it's just a hobby on steroids.
That goes back to, so you mentioned Bilstein, right? So the Challenger, right? The wide body that you run, and you've run this car. For those who haven't seen it, we'll flash the pictures up so you can take a look at it. It's one of the wildest looking things, right? This is this massive 3.9 or wide body Charger. Wheels that you look at and you're like, those seem a little oversized for that car. And meanwhile, Kevin goes out and he's running Pikes Peak with this thing, and then he changes it up and he does an autocross, and then maybe changes it again. He does a drag race. So why that? Like, out of all,
hold on, we got to start with why I'm even at Pikes Peak to begin with. And you're part of that story. You realize that, right?
No.
So
do tell, Kevin.
So SEMA 2015, you're sitting at the Dodge SEMA dinner with Kaniskas and David Kennedy. And you're talking about One Lap of America, and at some point my name came up, and the question was, does Kevin think he can win if he runs the Viper? And David called me like 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever.
Yeah.
And I picked up the phone and I said, yes, of course I can win. And that actually started the conversation from there to get the 2 record-holding ACR Vipers to run One Lap of America in 2016.
Okay.
And then we got booted out before we even started. So the request after that was to actually run Pikes Peak with those cars. So from the conversation at SEMA that you were at, to be basically changing it up in January of 2016 is why we ran Pikes Peak in 2016 with an ACR Viper.
No shit. Wow. That's kind of cool. I had no idea.
See that, Mike? You
cool.
see what you did there, Mike? You see what you did?
You're welcome.
Yeah.
No, that's very, very cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you started.
Yeah. So that started our whole. I mean, that started Pikes Peak right there. And when you look at what I've done racing, in the cars I run and things like that, I'm a risk taker, right? I'm not averse to risk, obviously. And when I said in 2016, if you guys supply me a car, I'll run Pikes Peak. I had never run Pikes Peak. I'd never even been there. I mean, I had no idea what I needed to do.
So you never were there before. You had never even seen the race, right?
No, never seen it, never been there, nothing. But I was committed at that point that if they were going to give me a car, I was going to find funding to do it, and I would cage it, and I would run it, and we would make it as successful as we possibly could, and that's what we did. We finished second that year.
So So there's a pattern going on here.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that Kevin just goes, just give me a car and I'll win. Like,
yeah.
Like, I have trouble if my wife gives me a list and I have to go to the supermarket to bring everything home that's on the list.
Mike,
right? So,
Mike, let's back up a second. I mean, I'm still a little flabbergasted by the answering the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, going, "Yeah, of course I'll." And then just that's just a matter of fact.
Piece of cake.
I'm getting a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Either something better on fire, someone just got shot. I mean, something terribly wrong. You are making no good decisions at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't care if you're awake at 3 a.m. You're not making a good decision, except for Kevin Wesley, like that.
Right.
Kennedy always says it's my Midwest work ethic, and at that time, in 2015, my work ethic was definitely a little bit different than it is now. But I pretty much worked 24 hours a day. So yeah, I would answer my phone all times. That's just the way it was. So.
Okay, so you go with the Viper, right? Right. Run the Viper, which is not for most people an overly easy car to drive. Take some experience to wheel. Right. I know this because I've done that. I've tried to do it. And you do that, then you come back, and what did you place with the Viper?
So we had a qualifying record in TA2 actually in 2016. And then we finished second because we ended up frying a O2 sensor preheater wire on the header about halfway up, and that circuit actually runs the secondary fan. So the car overheated, and we finished second behind the Acura NSX, which, and I love the Robinson brothers that run Acuras at Pikes. We got to know them well over the years. They admitted that they had nothing for us. We were going to crush them. We probably would have beat him by about 10 seconds that year.
And this, again, just so everybody knows, your first time running the event.
Yeah, my first time running the event. And you gotta remember, I mean, a normally aspirated V10 at 14,000 feet makes about 350 horsepower. I mean, it's not like that car was making a lot of power.
Right. So then why? Okay. So now you do the Viper effort, go to Pikes Peak. Then all of a sudden, you know, the Challengers are around. They've got big power with the Hellcat motors. They've got wide body. They're 4,500 plus pounds out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
So how, and okay. So walk us through that now, because you went from what is arguably one of the fastest, best track cars on the planet to one of the biggest, largest, and don't get me wrong, I love the Challenger, I love the Charger, but so was that just like, the hell with it, do this?
So again, and you just don't know, right? But in 2017, so we went 2016 on the Viper. 2017, I helped bring in 2 Fiat 124 rally cars from Europe. It actually ran Mount Washington Hill Climb in 2017 with a Fiat 124 rally car. So I went from a Viper to a Fiat 124 and then to the Challenger.
Okay. So
say no more. Say no more.
So like, it's just, I'm just trying to figure out like an analogy for this, right? You like, I don't even know what that is, because you
Mike,
got like
I've worked Top Gun into this, Mike. So you got to figure out some analogy, because I'm out.
To go, because like
I'm out.
From like
I got nothing.
Streamlined, fastest, hardcore, you know, kind of athlete. Then you go down to the 124, which is basically a Miata on steroids, right?
Yes.
And then you say, no, I'm gonna ditch the lightest thing that I've ever had gotten behind the wheel of, and I'm going to go to the heaviest thing. It's basically going to, like, you know, some kick-ass 16-foot Bonzi drag boat like the Nimitz, right?
Yeah.
You're like, no, I could do this. And then apparently you did do it. So,
and we did, and then you know, in the fall of 2017, we ran one more event in another press fleet Viper, and we actually went to Road Atlanta, and that was our first grid life event. I really enjoy now, but we ran in time attack, so we again, you know, go and pick up a press fleet car, go down to Road Atlanta, show up a time attack event that I hadn't been to for, you know, I hadn't been to Road Atlanta for 15 years, and set a track record, packed up and left. But that started out, but that got us again. You know, you kind of flip, right? You flip from Viper to Fiat. You run a season of Fiat. You show up and, you know, on a Viper, crush everybody. Then it's like, okay, I like V8s, or I like big horsepower again. So that's like, okay, well, let's get in with a Challenger, and found out Dodge might have something floating around, and asked and begged and, you know, pleaded, and you know, Kaniskas signed off and said, yeah, go for it, take it and see what you can do with it.
And do everything is basically what you did with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was the same thing as 2016 with that car. Is okay, we're gonna basically give you a car, you know, essentially we're gonna loan you a car, and whatever you want to do to it, you have to do it in your own dime. You know, they, you know, SRT at the time helped me out a little bit, but you know, they basically provided engineering support and said, you know, if you want to go to Pikes Peak, okay, you want to run attack, okay, that's great. Go find somebody and do it, and that's, you know, that's what we did. So, you know, in 2018 we got hooked up with Kumo, and we got hooked up with Bill Stein. And so you talk about big cars, and you know, wide body is a perfect platform to put a big tire on.
Sure.
And I remember we worked with Tom Odell, who at that point was at SRT, and he was in SRT Motorsports, and he's, you know, we're arguing about what tires we're going to run, and I'm like, we're going to run a 355 3019 square, and he's like, never fit. And I said, I really don't care if it does fit. You're going to make it fit, because Kumo's our tire sponsor. That's all they have. So we're going to run a 355. Yeah. And that's exactly what we ended up doing. And it bolted on. I mean, a 19 by 12 and a half wheel with a 55 bolted on the front of that car. And we still had the factory wheel liners on it. I mean, everything. I mean, it's wow. But, you know, people look at that like, why are you running that tire? It's like, I'm running that tire because somebody else is paying for it. That's why.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about sponsorship, because I don't think anybody in the outside world understands how sponsorship really works. It's not that you just call them and you be like, hey, I'm doing something. give me stuff.
Yeah, give me stuff.
Like
it doesn't work like that.
Right?
You
It's
want
back
to
and
work
forth.
like that,
So,
but yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't work like that. So walk us through a little bit of how sponsorship works.
Well, I always summarize sponsors and how much work it takes to program in basically one story of what happened in 2017. So in 2017, when we ran the Fiat program, I had over 2,500 emails just to get that sponsorship agreement sorted. And when
2,500?
2,500. That's what was in my email folder for Fiat at the end of the year. So when people say, you can ask for parts. I mean, parts are awesome. I love, sponsorship agreements for parts we'll always have, but cash is king, man. I mean, it's a whole nother world to get people to write checks for sponsors. And it takes a lot of work. I mean, I know for a fact that I could probably sit at my desk and grind it out and bill somebody the same amount of time and make more money by not actively pursuing my sponsors. I know that. But it's not the same, right? So it takes a lot of work. And, it's not a lot of ass kissing and this and that. It's just a lot of good old fashioned, I'm going to produce something, an event, a car. I'm going to say I'm going to be at X number of events, 7, 10, whatever it might be. And then you have to deliver, because if I don't deliver, I don't get paid. So, you have to make sure that you can deliver that. So in 2018, when we got Kumo and Bilstein, those were my two sponsors, basically. We had Ignite fuel for fuel. We had American Racing for headers. We had Pagid for brake pads, and we had Youngblood Racing for wheels. And we basically put together a time attack and a Pikes Peak season and went from there. And I lost my ass on 2018. I mean, there's make no bones about it. I lost my ass on 2018. But I said I was going to race, and I did. And that's just the way it goes. So,
Kevin driver carries no cash. Just
yeah, exactly. I don't. Unfortunately, I have to carry a credit card though.
So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Driver carries plastic.
Yeah, and then you learn as you start adding people, sponsorships and commitments. And we went to Pikes Peak in 2019 when we added the wide body charger to the event, and Andy Popes drove for us. I mean, that was a whole nother level of racing owner frustration, all of the above, and you just, everybody on the team then has a credit card that has my name on it that I have to pay for at the end of the week. And, I mean, it's a whole nother level. And
Kevin's like, you don't need that Snickers.
Yeah. Put that back. Put that back.
Yeah. I try not to do that. But I mean, it's just a completely another realm. It's like, it's not like you're going to the track with your buddies to have a good time. It's not like you're going, even with no pressure. I mean, in 2019, we showed up with 2 cars with funding for both. And I mean, the pressure's on, and you better, pull your head out of your ass and make sure you do something. I mean, even if you don't win, you better have a good result and make sure the cars show up, right? I mean, I've seen, I mean, you should see the way we go to the track now. I mean, we show up with a trailer. I mean, and I don't do Taj Mahal stuff, so it's reasonably a 26-foot enclosed trailer if we take one car. But we short an engine and a trans. We have everything in that trailer to make sure we're going to run the entire weekend. Because you have to. Huh? Because if I don't, I know that I'm going to lose money, a sponsorship agreement, because I finish.
Right.
And by Saturday afternoon, you're like, didn't you guys just eat like on Thursday or something like that? Right? Is that how that actually goes? You guys are just
it's not that bad, but I mean, for Wesley Motorsports, when it comes to that type of motorsports, obviously we're not Penske, we're not Hendrick, we're not running for a championship. It's a lot of it is just a marketing exercise because of the way we cherry pick events, but you need to put on a good show. I mean, we are there to put on a good show, and we're there to take a car that's, we know it's not going to win, but damn it, we're going to try. And, like in 2018, we finished third overall in unlimited time attack points and for life. No, it was second. I mean, come on. I mean, we're racing against cars that are, literally a ton or more lighter than what we're running.
Right.
2,000 pounds lighter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So now,
Right.
where do you want to take Wesley Motorsports? Like, where is the future? Because you've done the wide bodies, you've done stuff, and I know obviously we're talking about doing a car together, but what are you thinking about? What's the next step?
I mean, Wesley Motorsports was really supposed to be my retirement job. It's kind of started a little bit early now. I'm definitely not ready to retire yet, but I mean, that was always the long-term plan, is if I could convert my hobby into a business that's break even or a little bit better, then, my wife isn't going to, have, proverbially, chop them off because I'm spending too much money. So that was always the goal, is to just make break even. It's started earlier than I had planned, and that's okay. But now we're gonna start, popping out some customer cars. Or we've been converting so many people in the last 3 years with the Challengers to show them that they can turn. We were all ready for LX Fest, which I know you were probably going to be at.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Yep.
And we had literally went out and had printed one of those, a banner. I don't remember who's Steven Crowder. You know who Crowder is? Changed my mind. We had the kids had convinced me to make a banner, and we had a table, and I was going to sit there at LX Fest and it said Challengers can turn. Changed my mind, and I was just going to sit there and talk with people and talk to all the haters that want to come up there and say cars can't turn, and they can. They absolutely 100% can turn. And I love Pirelli. They make a great product, but the reason Challengers aren't more competitive out of the box is because they're tire limited. I mean, when you got a GT350 that comes on a whatever Michelin Pilot, and you have Goodyear on the ZL1, you put that same tire on a Challenger and they're neck and neck. Well, I already know that. I've done it. So, I mean, that's really what we want to do with the shop, is show people, car can turn. Will help you get through some of the shit that's on the internet. I mean, so many times we have to deal with that. I mean, Mo Party was a perfect example. We showed up with our Scat Pack. It's got a 325 Toyo 888. We were like, I don't know, 0.2 of a second slower than the fastest Challenger there, which had 700 pounds cut out of it, set up for cam autocross, everything like that. Awesome. Hey, we were a little bit slower. Well, we showed up with a car that had a coilover on it and a brake pad change, and has never been aligned from where it showed up from the factory. So when you show people that, and you show how fast out of the box it can be, it's like, the proof is in the pudding. You don't need to go out and just ring the aftermarket bell to make your car go fast. There are aftermarket parts you should choose, but just because it's aftermarket doesn't mean your car is going to be faster. And we work on that so much, and that's one of the things we're going to do with the shop. That's late model stuff. We're going to do early Gen 3 swap stuff. I have, built a 76 Dart Light. It's a Gen 3 swap that's not seen daylight since I finished it 5 years ago because I've been distracted with other stuff. Just caged a 68 Valiant to run and wheel-to-wheel road racing, 68 4-door, of course. So we're going to pair those two up, and we're going to do a Gen 3 swap in that.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Gen 3 swaps, torsion bars, leaf springs. It's a beautiful combination. I mean, you put a 5-speed or an 8-speed in those cars, and you cruise down the highway all day long and show up at the track and do whatever you want.
See, this is the thing that cracks me up in talking to you, because so for those that don't know, and I've said this out for, we're gonna play with the Daytona a little bit, right? My 69 clone Daytona. Yep. And every time I get nervous, Kevin just goes, "Don't worry about it." Right. So I'm like, wait,
you're just going to do it.
We're thinking, we're thinking, put a Hellcat in it, an 8-speed, the whole. And I go, "Kevin, how are you going to cool this?" He goes, Don't worry about it." And then, well, how's it going to, Mike, just shut up and don't worry about it. Yeah. Like, it's like, and I'm like, like, clawing at the walls. Like, I don't understand how you're going to make this work. And his voice in it, just don't worry about it. And it's the funniest thing for me. It almost drives me crazy, because I'm like, because then I hear Kevin's stories. He's like, just rip it down the straightaway 107. I had no brakes, or like, it's one of those things where that car I feel like is going to intimidate the crap out of me. So I have a feeling you're going to be driving it most of the time, especially if we start doing like track events. Because the overall goal at some point is to go to Germany and run the ring with the car, right? And I will.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
I'm driving it on the ring.
Yeah.
So you're going to be driving it on the Nürburgring ring.
Yeah,
Because...
I'll spend a few laps in Gran Turismo and show up and hit it. I mean,
Yeah, I like it. That sounds like a good idea.
That's how I did Pikes in 2016. So hey, it worked out.
So for people that want to, you know, we're talking about Challengers and Chargers and kind of older Mopars. What's the best place for them to go to ask you questions, to kind of feel out they're looking to get a car built, you know, and just everything that is Wesley? Where do they go? Well,
WesleyMotorsports.com. That's, you know, there's a Q&A little section there. We try to be as active as we can on that. Obviously, we're on Facebook and Instagram. You know, people DM us all the time on Facebook and Instagram. We answer as many questions as we can. We actually have a phone and a phone number, so if you want to call us, you know, we'll talk to you and just talk you through the projects. And again, we're not a shop that simply wants to churn out cars. We aren't a shop that wants to do a ton of fabrication. That's just not what we're about. We want to show everybody and walk them through making their cars work with really a choice of off-the-shelf OE stuff and some aftermarket parts. It's always this combination, but we always leverage the OEs as much as we can. Like we have a ACR Viper brake kit for Challenger Charger is available now, and that was a result of our Pikes Peak program, where we took ACR, the carbon rotor 6-piston Brembo caliper, and put it on Challenger. And the reason we did that was, for us, you know, we needed something that would clear a smaller wheel package. But in addition to that, Challengers have this horrible pad taper problem. You go to the track a lot. I mean, if we run an OE Brembo caliper on our cars, we will burn through 2 sets of pads a weekend. Well, when you're burning through, you know, Hawk DTC 70 or DTC 80 pads, that's $1,000 brake pads every weekend. And it's to be expensive. Well, the reason for that is because of the piston sizing in the OE Brembo is equal. So there's no taper. I mean, you're familiar with that. You usually see a 6-piston caliper. You're going to see a big piston, smaller. OE 6-piston Hellcats aren't like that. Well, the Viper is. The sizing is close enough where you don't have any difference in the ABS and things like that. But that caliper change on our cars saved us $800 a weekend brake pads. Well, I didn't go out and buy $20,000 brakes, which I've done, that don't work. I'm still using the factory stuff that you can buy for, you know, $1,500 a set. So yeah, the OEs know what they're doing. SRT engineers, by far, I've worked with Ford, I've worked with GM. SRT engineers, by far, the best engineers out there. They're racers, they know what they're doing. The validation that SRT does is by far 10 times better. I mean, look at Corvette. You can't take a Corvette to a road course and make 2 laps without a D rating. You'd never see that with a Chrysler product. Never. That's insane. There's no way you'd get a badge. But, you know, so yeah, am I partial to Dodge? Yes, because I love the brand, but there are reasons why I love the brand. The Dodge platform is still the only one that hasn't tried to kill me, right? Taking Fords to the track, they've tried to kill me. Taking Vets to the track, they've tried to kill me. Dodge hasn't tried to kill me yet. So
I think we just came up with the Dodge that's the tagline for 21, right?
So, right?
Like Dodge, we'll try not to kill you. Like that's
right. Right. And and I have no cash.
Yeah. Right. Driver credit, no cash.
I always laugh about some. We could get into details, but you know, some of the other engineers that have developed some of the other cars that are out there at some of these manufacturers are actually reject SRT engineers, which crack me up. So, what is that?
Well, I love the fact, and I think that's something that the hobby really needs, and I think this goes for, you know, regardless of what kind of car you're driving, right? Is that people look at the aftermarket for every type of solution without looking to people. Yeah, where a lot of
That's a
times it's
mistake.
right under the.
It's a
It's
mistake.
totally a mistake. Well, and like I always tell
It's a
people, I'm
mistake.
like, a lot of the OEMs spend millions upon millions of dollars on R&D to make their cars safe, to make them do the right things. Why wouldn't you use those parts
That's
on,
right.
on your
Yeah.
rod, on your new car? So I think what you're doing is you're going to find a lot of people that are like just going to go, finally somebody has done this. And
Yeah.
because like you said, I think it's just cheaper because you can buy the parts at the dealership, right? If something goes
Yes.
wrong, you buy the parts at the dealership. Two, they're engineered to work always because they're made to go 150,000 miles or whatever the case is, right? For an OEM.
Right.
But two, it's just so rare that people actually take the time to develop stuff using OEM parts for an aftermarket application. So good for you on doing that, man. I think you guys are going to kill it.
I mean,
That's
that's just the Bilstein, shock that we run on the Challenger. I mean, that's an MDS rod for the Viper program. That shock that we run is lifetime warranty because it was developed as an OE platform. How much better can you get that? So now I'm going to go out and buy an aftermarket part that I know has been OE validated. There's not many aftermarket parts available that have OE validation. There just isn't. And that's why you see failure. That's why you see things that just don't work. That's why you see welds that break. Oh my God, I've seen so many welds break on crazy things, especially in the vintage stuff like upper control arms. And I look at that and I'm like, I want to have an upper control arm break at 160 miles an hour. I'm surprised people haven't had massive accidents with some of their cars. But it is what it is. I mean, aftermarket has its place. It's not the gospel. That's for sure.
Right. Well, this is good. So this is, I'm going to pimp the crap out of it because I think people need to hear this. I think people need to understand that there is alternative solutions than the aftermarket. The key is having the right individual, the right company that knows how to put these packages together for your own application. And then, also just telling people what they don't need, I think is another portion, right?
Right. And that's right. I mean, and when you talk about Wesley Motorsports and what's, Kevin's long-term goal, obviously racing is always going to be the core of our business. Modifying cars, installing products is going to be part of it. But, a long-term goal for us is to actually be a supplier of packages for the Dodge market that just simply doesn't exist right now. Validated parts, whether it be a combination of OE and aftermarket or even just OE stuff that's tried and true and tested. Mm-hmm. And we can say we've run 1,000 track miles with that shock and coilover package we want you to run. Nobody else in the aftermarket can say that. So when it gets that Wesley Motorsports sticker, it's had the validation that it needs to know that it's a quality part.
Right. Okay. And one last thing. Will you be taking cars into the shop to do modifications, or are you going to sell packages that ship out to people?
All of the above. So we're going to be taking cars in, my wife says, "What are you trying to be, Jack Roush?" And I'm like, "Well, Jack's doing pretty well. Roger."
It's not a bad goal. It's not a bit terrible.
If I have to set that, we have a Wesley Motorsports edition Challenger and Charger. I'll make no bones about that. That's our plan. We want to get into the dealership network one way or another. And we want to be able to show them, hey, here's the package. Think about ACR neons, right? You go way back and the trunk kit that you used to get. It was this pile of parts that would show up, and it was shocks and struts and whatever. Maybe the dealer put it on and maybe they didn't. that model still works, right? Yeah. If I can go into the dealer as a consumer and I can say, hey, I want to buy a wide body Scat Pack 6-speed Challenger, which is going to be, say, $42,000 or whatever with power dollars. And I want you to put Wesley Motorsports coilovers on it, a Viper brake kit, and a set of Youngblood wheels, and then bundle that up so I can finance it. That's cool.
Oh God, yeah.
Come on.
I just wrote that down.
Actually. so now I'm out the door for $55,000, but I'm still whatever less than a Hellcat because I can't afford insurance for that. Yeah. All those things from the 60s still apply, right? That Grand Sport, Spalding, Mr. Norm,
Yanko,
Chevrolet, all that stuff still works today. And, Dodge just unfortunately hasn't done a great job with some of that stuff. So, we want to do that.
Good. Well,
don't get me wrong. If they came out with an ACR Challenger, I wouldn't complain. But, we've been the brunt of that for, 3 years now, and clearly that hasn't shown up. So I'm not holding my breath.
Well, I'll tell you, Kevin, thank you so much
for coming on Kevin, the podcast. Thank you.
This is good. I'm excited to throw this one out to people and be like, just lock yourself in a room and don't say anything. And just listen to what the man has to say.
That's right.
Right.
Nobody believes me when I tell them I used to show up to BMW driving school events and rent a Chrysler 300 and go lap the instructors group. Nobody wants to hear that stuff. They literally don't believe you when you tell those stories. But people talk about it now. It's like, what should I do to my car? It's like, you should take your car to the track, but it doesn't have any aftermarket parts. Good. Go learn how to drive stock pads. Go learn how to last 20 minutes without burning your car down, and then go buy some stuff. But save your money.
All right, so this is what we have to do, and I need to happen. Once the Daytona's done, can we go to a Porsche track with it and just have you cook people with that car?
Oh, absolutely. I actually did that. I did that as a proposal back in 2017 to do that with an Alfa Romeo Giulia at BMW club events. I tried to get them to give me a Giulia so I could just get with press and go to BMW club events and just flog everybody and shame every BMW that's there, and then back up and go home.
So you know what the cool part is? We're press. We can do that.
We can do it. That's done. Right. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mike, write that down.
Write
that down, Mike.
Absolutely. That's fun. I mean, again, that's what I like. That's what I like to do. Call it sadistic, whatever. I don't care, but it's just fun. It's just fun.
See, Dan, I can see the wheels turning because Dan's daily driver is a 300 SVT.
I've already, we're already there.
Surprised it shows up at your shop door.
It's all, hey, Kevin, just go out and look outside. It's already there. It's out front. I left the keys in it.
Okay. All right. Yeah,
so, Kevin, thank you.
I really appreciate it, guys. I mean, it's fun to get the stories out. It's been a long time. I started in '93. It's going on 30 years. I mean, we've been doing this a long time, so we've been around the block a little bit.
Well, I think we're going to have a couple of other opportunities to help get the Wesley Motorsports story out, which is going to be good for 2021 and beyond, which is going to be a lot of fun to do. So once again, thanks for coming on, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, go to Wesley Motorsports, check him out on social, go to the website, call him, ask him questions about how to make.
He's got he's got a landline, so use it.
Wow. Yeah.
It's weird, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Otherwise, sir, we will talk to you very soon. And again, thanks for coming on, Kevin. Really appreciate it.
See you, Kevin.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot.
Good.